All right, this is triangles number 2 homework. Let's take a look at the first triangle. The first triangle has a lot of fractions in it, and they're asking us to find the area and the perimeter. So when I see a triangle with fractions, I know that there's two different formulas. There's the area is 1/2 times the base times the height, or you could do area is base times height divided by 2. They're the same exact formula, but this one is better to use with fractions. So in the first one, I'm going to identify this is where the right angle is. So that straight line going up and down is going to be my height. And what the triangle is sitting on is going to be my base. So the formula I want to use is area equals 1/2 times the base times the height. And I chose that because there's fractions here. So I'm going to substitute, I keep that 1/2 because it's part of the formula. But in place of the base on the bottom, I'm going to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. So I need to do 3 times 8 is 24, plus 2 is 26, and then I keep my denominator of 3. My height, I'm going to use 5 times 5 is 25, plus 3 is 28 over 5. Then I'm going to look and say, well, is there anything I can reduce? So 2 and 26 are both even numbers, so I'm going to reduce by 2. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 26 13 times. All right, so now I'm going to take a look and see if there's anything else I can reduce. Well, 3, no, that's not going to go into 28. 5's not going to go into 13, so there's nothing else I can do, so I'm going to multiply across the top. So 1 times 13 times 28. I'm going to enter that into my calculator. 1 times 13 times 28. And I get 364. Okay, that's my numerator. Now I'm going to multiply the denominator. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, now I don't want to leave it as an improper fraction, so this is where I say, well, how many times can 15 go into 364? So over on the side, I'm going to do 364 divided by 15. Okay, well, I know it's not going to go into 3, but 15 can go into 36 twice, and that's 30. So then when I subtract, I get 6. Now I'm going to bring my 4 down. All right, 15 can go into 64 4 times. That would be 60. So when I subtract, I have a remainder of 4. So it goes in 24 times with a remainder of 4 out of 15. Okay, so this right here is my area. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, and on my area line, I'm going to write 24 and 4/15 meters squared. Okay, now I'm going to use the rest of my space to figure out the perimeter. Perimeter is when you take side 1, you add side 2, and you add side 3. It's just adding all 3 sides of a triangle. So I still have those fractions. So I've got 10 1/3 plus 5 3/5 plus 8 2/3. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I see that these both have common denominators. So what we can do is we can combine those together. So if I do 10 1/3 plus 8 2/3, I get 18 3/3. Well, I know that 3/3 or 3 divided by 3 is 1. So those actually combine together, 18 and 1 to equal 19. Then I still have 5 3/5. So if I just combine the whole numbers, 19 plus 5 is 24, and I still have the 3/5. So my perimeter would be 24 3/5 meters. Okay, so when you take a look at the second one, this one's got nice whole numbers and decimals. So if I were setting up my formula, I'm going to use this one right here because there's no fractions. So I would set that up as area equals base times height divided by 2. Now again, when I look at this triangle and identify where the right angle is, this is the base, and this line going straight up and down is my height. So when I substitute in, my base is 2.4 inches, and my height is 3.2 inches. And then that will all be divided by 2. I'm going to let you guys continue and figure out what this one works out to be. Okay, when you find perimeter, you're just adding all the sides of the triangle. So pause the video and finish that. Okay. On the back, the first one says a right triangle. So I'm going to draw myself a picture of a right triangle. Has a height of 54.36 inches and a base of 23.4 inches. What's the area? Okay, so you're trying to figure out what the area of this triangle is. Since these are just decimals, I would still use that area equals base times height divided by 2. And you're just substituting in for the base and the height. So in this case, the base was 23.4, the height was 54.36, and then you'll need to divide by 2. So you guys finish that one up. Take a look at the next one. The triangle below has an area of 4.67 square inches. So they gave you the area of this triangle. If the base is 3.4 inches, then let h be the height and solve for h. Okay. So they want us to figure out what the rest of this was. Now when Miss Flood made this on the board, she just kind of continued this and turned it into a rectangle. So if they said the area of this was 4.67, then we know the area of the other triangle is also 4.67 because those two triangles together make a rectangle. So if I were to combine them, I would just add those together. So 4.67 plus 4.67 would say that the total area of both triangles is 9.34. So now I just want to know base and height. So they told me that the base is 3.4, but I don't know the height. So that's what I'm trying to solve for. So I'm going to solve like it's an equation. So to solve for h, I do the opposite of multiplying by 3.14, which is to divide both sides by 3.14. These reduce and I'm left with h. So on my calculator, I would do 9.34 divided by 3.14, and I get a decimal. I'm going to round. It says 2.97, and I'm going to round it to that 100th spot and say 2.97 inches. All right. So take a look at the next one. It's very similar. They give you the same thing. If I've got a right triangle, and they said the area is 6.22 inches squared, and the base is 3.11 inches, then what would the height be? Well, same thing. I'm going to turn that into a rectangle. And if this is 6.22, so is this. So if I'm finding the area of just a rectangle, it's length times width or base times height. So I'm going to put the total area in. If I do 6.22 plus 6.22, that gives me 12.44 as the area of the total shape. I know the base is 3.11 or 3 11/100ths, but I don't know my height again. So we're going to solve by dividing by 3.11 on both sides. And then you guys will be able to get your height. So divide that out. All right, take a look at the very last one. It says if the area of a right triangle is 9/16 feet squared and the height is 3/4 feet, write an equation that relates to the base and the height and solve the equation to determine the base. Actually, let's make this the height over here, 3/4 feet, and we're looking for the base. Okay, so let's see if this 9/16, 9 divided by 6. Okay, so if I were again to make this a rectangle, that would mean this would also be 9/16. Okay, so if I was trying to get the total area, I would add those together. And that would give me 18/16 for the total area. If I did 9 plus 9 is 18, and you keep your denominator. The base they gave me, or the base we're looking for, but the height they gave me is 3/4, and I'm looking for the base. Those are multiplied. Again, I need to get rid of the 3/4 to solve for the base. So the opposite of times 3/4 is to divide by 3/4, which would make those reduce to 1. Now when we have fractions, we're going to write 18/16 divided by 3/4 going horizontally. That's going to give us the base. Okay, so I'm going to move my work up here. Now, I know if I have 18/16 divided by 3/4, I have to keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, and do the reciprocal on the second fraction, so it would be 4/3. Now there's a lot of reducing I can do. 4 will reduce by 4 goes into 4 once and into 16 4 times. 3 goes into 3 once and into 18 6 times. So now when I multiply across, I get 6/4. We don't want to leave it improper, so I know 4 is going to go into 6 one time. If I do that work over here, 4 goes into 6 one time with a remainder of 2, and 2/4 will reduce to 1/2. So the base equals 1 1/2.